All right, hi guys. We wanted to record this because we were really fortunate to have Kate join us today, and I knew that many of you would have hated to miss it. So Magdi and I are going to pelt her nicely with questions because if you're trying to grow your personal brand, if you're passionate about data and you're a data evangelist, there's few people better to talk to than Kate. Um, Kate and I first became friends almost 3.5 years ago. It was when I was brand new to trying to build an online presence. And she graciously took my call back then. She was already an author of multiple books and had a strong presence on LinkedIn. And we're just, I'm really honored to be friends with Kate. She's helped my growth on LinkedIn a lot. And Magdi, I'm going to let you start with the questions because you were the one kind enough to get Kate here with us today. Go on ahead.
Yeah, I would like to ask a very personal questions as a mom.
Okay,
it's a time management question because I always get these questions, and obviously I'm also struggling. Although I have one daughter, and he's not so young than your kids, but still I'm just wondering all the time, how do you do all this? So what is, I mean, if you can say proportionally that how is one day? I mean, what is family time? What is your work? Or do you have a routine? Or what? Simply, what is your trick? I know that Superwoman mom exists, so I know a little bit, but still, what is your personal trick?
I have a button. It's this easy button. I press it and everything gets done. I wish.
Done by others? You mean
No.
you delegate?
You would think so.
Or you're the fairy.
That's the one thing I cannot do for some reason is delegate. I personally wish I could. That's one of my weaknesses is trusting others to do my work for me. But I think, well, my kids are a bit older now. So they're age 5 and 7, 2 girls. And I think it helps that they are just amazing. I think that helps because, they're very understanding. They know if I have a call like I do right now, they'll keep themselves busy. And it also helps that they have each other to play with. I think if it was one child, they'll be like, hey, mom, I'm bored. Like, entertain me, feed me. They even feed each other sometimes. They take care of each other.
Wow.
So they're very independent. But obviously they weren't always, right? So 3 years ago, it was very different. And interestingly, I used to work a lot more 3 years ago because I had a full-time job. And I was trying to build my community and sort of start building my business. So it was a lot tougher back then. Now it tends to be simpler. I think I don't have a routine per se, but I am typically up at 5 a.m. or slightly before 5 a.m. every single day, including today. So including weekends, including times that I've maybe stayed up later watching a movie with my husband. I still have my alarm that goes off and it says best day ever. It actually says that at 5 o'clock in the morning, puts you in the right state of mind. And what I do at that point that I learned from this book, I think it's called The 5-Second Rule by Mel Robbins, where she says when you need to do something difficult or something you don't want to do, just count down like a rocket launch, like 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then just do it. It sort of negates all the thought process in your mind where, oh, I deserve to sleep in, or what do I really need to do if I get up? So I simply sit up. I am one of the people that grab my phone the first thing in the morning. It actually helps me wake up. I think that bright light has no choice. My brain has no choice but to become alert and sort of start checking my email, check the calendar for the day. So I think that the secret for me is that 5 a.m. club where I have these 2 hours where I can drink coffee. It's still dark out for the most part. Everyone in the house is still sleeping. And I can work on absolutely anything I need. I can check my calendar, prepare all the stuff I need to prepare for the day. And then around 7 a.m., the kids either wake up or I have to go wake them up because I have to take them to school. Another helpful thing is they're in school this year, where 2 years ago, they were home for about 2 years where I had to homeschool. So if I look at things now, it looks like I have the easiest day in life compared to what I used to have. So because now they're actually in school from 8:30 to 3 p.m. And that's when I get all the work done.
Wow.
Does that help?
Wow. So that means that you are typically an early bird. That helps. Yeah.
Yes, I am in bed by like 10 p.m. though. I think.
Yeah. I assume that. Yeah. I mean the trick you can. I mean the routine you can convert it to night owls as well, because either you take it in the morning if you are someone who gets up early, or you just extend it that when the kids are in bed. This is what I did. That I went to with my daughter in bed. I was totally exhausted because I work full time as well. So I went to bed with her. Went to bed, put her in bed, stay with her, had a half an hour nap, something like that. So I get energized. And when she was sleeping, then I went on with my extra 2 hours or 3 hours with what you mentioned. Then everything was quiet in the house, so I could work, I could do something else or learn.
I tried that, and for me it was impossible, because you know what? One, if I stay with the kids, I'm gonna fall asleep with the kids, and that used to happen quite often. Where I wake up, I'm like, oh my god, I didn't know, why am I in this bed? And then the second thing, once I get up, I used to feel so tired because you sat in the dark room putting the kids to bed for sometimes an hour, if not more, while reading stories and telling stories. And then the other thing is, I feel like I felt like I couldn't be productive at night, where all I wanted to do was eat junk food and watch junk TV. That's the only thing I could do at night. I can't.
Yeah, because you are early bird. Yeah, but if you are a night owl like me, I'm active in the evening, so I can make it till 4:30 in the morning next day.
Oh, wow.
So, but I cannot. I mean, if it's a must, I can get up at 5 o'clock or 6 o'clock, but if not, 9. So after 8, then I can choose.
Okay, we have this grand opportunity to get true confessions from Kate Strachnyi. So are you confessing that you're a Netflix/Amazon series binge watcher sometimes?
Actually, no. So unfortunately, I don't even watch TV for the most part. It's such a, I don't know. I haven't seen any of the good movies. I've not seen any of the the series that people talk about all the time. I'm always confused. I haven't seen Tiger King and some of the other ones like Walking Dead. I don't get any of the references. It takes me about 2 weeks to watch one movie, and it's typically a movie I watched 10 years ago that just happened to be on Netflix. Because I like to watch TV when I'm eating lunch. So yeah, no.
I'm impressed because I'm at the middle of the spectrum. There's things I won't watch, but then there are things that I binge watch and I regret it sometimes. But that's really great.
I used to watch things. I guess there's just nothing that interests me enough at this point. I read a lot though, so that's my other thing is. I try to make a lot of time for reading.
It's some ways kind of wasting time sometimes, right? When you know that you could do something better instead of that.
Yes, and once you sit down and want to watch a movie, the kids are going to interrupt me anyway. So it's like, what's the point? And when they're sleeping, I'm sleeping, so there's not much time.
Robin, we can't handle 2 famous people on one episode. This is overwhelming. Okay. He went on mute. But we're still glad you're here, Robin. Okay, go on. Yeah, Magdi, go on. These questions are great.
Yeah, I'm just wondering that you said that, yes, 3 years ago you worked much more.
Yes.
I assume, but this is only my assumption, and so I'm just curious if you can confirm that during these 3 years, what changed? I mean, in your values. So did you get to a phase when you said, no, I will block time for my family? For example, there is a kind of a linear progress in that direction, or what did it change in your work-family balance?
Yeah, I think it even changed 8 years ago. So almost 8 years ago, I had my first child. And that's when, so I was even busier back then. Okay, I used to travel for work. I used to work nights every night. I used to work weekends every weekend. I would never know which state or country I would be because of my consulting job. And so when I was expecting my first child, I've decided that sort of reset my values. That was part 1 of resetting my values, where I said, I want to see my kids. I don't want to travel. I don't want to work 80 hours a week. And I understood, I think from an early point, where money truly does not buy happiness, where if you incrementally, if you're making 10%, 15% more, but you're working so much more hours, especially if you have other things you want to do in your life. Like for me, I wanted to see the kids. It just didn't matter anymore. So I started working from home back when it wasn't cool yet, like pre-COVID, 7-8 years ago. So I was really happy to be able to do that. And I think that's sort of what reset my values the first time. Then in March 2020, I went off on my own. So I started my own company. I went full-time at the height of the pandemic. So that was exciting, but I felt this pressure to succeed because I sort of took a risk, right? I left a well-paying full-time job that for the most part let me stay home. And then, people treated me nice, and I felt like I was adding a lot of value. I was well respected. And I decided to just take this risk. So I had this first year pressure of, we must make money, we must succeed. And so I worked pretty hard that first year. And then I quickly realized that more work doesn't necessarily mean, again, more happiness. So I've taken a step back, and I've actually started saying no a lot to a lot of opportunities. So if someone said, hey, do you want to do this training, or you want to co-author a book, or do you want to do a course here or do this there? I still say yes to plenty of things, but not everything. Like I used to say yes to everything. And now I try to keep my schedule pretty strict to when I take calls. Now I use Calendly, which helps me a lot. So I do thank technology for this because I don't need an assistant that sort of goes back and forth. I send people a Calendly link. They only have certain hours they can book.
Yeah.
Which for me are 9 a.m. to 11 a.m., which means that I've dropped the kids off, I've had breakfast, I'm available from 9 to 11, and then again from 1 p.m. to 2 p.m., which again means I have lunch, I have my second coffee, and I'm done by 2, which again means I can pick up the kids freely at 3 with no interruption. And now I've also blocked Mondays and Fridays. So I know to people listening, it sounds like I'm getting lazy, but I'm not. I'm actually becoming strategic because I noticed myself struggling where I wanted to go do something and I'm like, oh no, I have a call, I can't. So then I took a look at my calendar and decided, when should I block my calendar to do the things that actually matter to me? And it helped me so much. I'm so much happier now knowing that my calendar is not booked all the time and I know exactly when I'll have the break to work on something.
Yeah, it's so great to hear that what you said at the beginning, that after a while you realize that the financial increment will not make you happy because you miss out on things you really want to do with your family or for yourself, because obviously you also have to block time for yourself, just be alone or sit with the book or without interruption from the kid. Otherwise, where do you get your energy? So how can you do that?
You have to
and basically you are telling also that the trend that maybe we should work like 4 days, 4 days full time for the same salary, because you are more productive. I mean, when your calendar is blocked and you manage your time better, I think it also works. So it's and also educate the people that, okay, this is your block time, you can book me, you can call me, it works. I mean, for the first time, it might be a strange approach for certain people.
Yes.
But the main thing is that it should work for you. So it is a lot of times logistic, how you organize your life, working life as well.
I'm aware that I think probably 80% of people in the workplace don't have that flexibility. They don't have the ability to just say, I'm only going to take calls 2 days a week, because guess what? You work for a company and they say you can take calls 9 to 5, 5 days a week, right? So it does become sort of, that sounds great, but how do I actually pull it off? So for me, I was lucky enough to gradually start this process when I was at the corporate gig, where I learned that if I blocked my calendar in small increments, at least for that break, to make sure people don't double book or book me right after one after another, I was starting that process gradually. I do have a lot more flexibility now because, well, who's going to tell me I can't, right? It's kind of like, who's going to stop me? But I am aware that not everyone has that flexibility. So I think, understanding that and starting small, at least block your calendar for lunch, because I know a lot of people end up working through lunch as well. I definitely don't miss those days at all.
Mhm.
I want to affirm for everyone, Calendly is powerful. It's great. It can do just what Kate's saying. It can help you control when people can schedule time to talk to you. It's super great that way. And I encourage you all to get it because it's free. It links to your calendar system. I use Google Calendar. So big plus. And I've been taking notes for people that are coming. We have some questions in the chat, but Kim, you had a question. I think we'd like to hear that now. And then Magdi, make sure you stay in control. I just want to say those things.
Hey guys, how are you? I don't know how well you can hear me. I've been having all sorts of headphone issues because I think one of them. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you. The connection was breaking up a little bit. I don't think it's the headphones.
Hold on a second. Okay. Right.
That's usually me, Kimberly. That's usually me with my Wi-Fi. I'm always like,
Oh my God, wait till your kids get older. You will not possess anything that you use. I put markers on headphones. I put like, little tiny symbols to show that they're mine, and they still go missing.
they have their own kid headphones, so it's all good.
But then when they get older, they don't want those anymore.
Oh, good point. Yeah. They're going to steal my AirPods.
Yeah.
Kim, Kim, I prefer to see you, but just to help your bandwidth, maybe turn your camera off. I do prefer to see you though.
Can you hear me better now?
Not really.
Not really, but it might help. It might help. Keep going.
At least when I saw her, Tom, I could have tried to understand the lip sync, That's
You know what? Take Ravit's question, because I'm going to pop off and go on my phone. It seems to be working better these days.
Okay, sure.
I heard that.
Yeah, that was actually pretty good. But so Robert had a great question, and I'm going to help it a little bit. Robert's first question was building your personal brand in the data space. And Robert, what I'm going to do is recap very quickly from my notes of the wisdom that Kate shared with us before you could join, and then have Kate add anything she wants. First of all, she was helping us because we admitted that we're still young. We need to get better with our online. We're ready to advance the way we stream to everywhere. So basically her biggest answer was StreamYard, and we're going to do that. And she's going to send us this very valuable PDF that she sends out to people. Kate, if it's okay, I'll share that PDF I do in the post about our session.
Yeah, you can share it.
Okay, and I'm going to give you kudos for it, of course. But so she's going to send that to us. And then Kate's biggest secrets are she's the 5 a.m. club. She's got 2 hours that way before she's got to wake her daughters up. And then she gets a lot of work done while her kids are at school. And this was the hardest to believe part. I do believe her, it's just hard to believe. She doesn't watch much TV. She reads a lot. And she's learned to say no to a lot of things. And Calendly is one of her best friends. But also, we all know that fear, that anxiety of starting a new task. Well, Kate's secret is the 5-second rule. She counts down from 5, and it just gets her mind ready for it. And I confess, I've heard that before, and I've got to try it. But in the end, as she's gotten more and more popular and busy, she didn't say it that way, I am. It's been her strategy to get better at saying no to certain things. Obviously, someone as sought after as Kate can't say yes to everything. So, Kate. Robert wanted to know a little more about how people in general can build their personal brand. Go for it.
Yes, before I do that, I agree with Ravit. He said, don't you guys agree? Sometimes when Tom speaks, he sounds so divine and pure. It's like the wisdom raining down on us. So, I love it. Well, Ravit's the king of, brand building as well. So it would be great to hear his side note. He's at dinner and he's sort of just listening in. But I think it all starts with genuinely caring about the community. And I truly enjoy bringing people together, even before I was in social media. If I had a coworker that said, oh, I want to publish a book and I know a publisher, I would not hesitate, but to immediately stop what I'm doing and say, okay, what's your email address? Let me send it to this person and connect you guys as soon as we can, because I enjoyed connecting the right people with other people that would, end up being valuable in those relationships. So I think step one is caring about what you're doing. Step two is identifying what your brand actually is. What do you want to be known for? And one way to determine this is if you picture a room of, I don't know, 8 to 10 people, could be your friends, your colleagues, just people who know you pretty well. What do they say about you when you're not there, especially on a professional basis? What are you the go-to person for? Do people come to you with questions for, I don't know, whenever they're stuck with their code, and are you like the best code fixer? Are you good at that? Or are you good at visualizing data and being creative in design? So identifying what you want to be known for, it doesn't have to be necessarily what you're already known for, but it's definitely a good start, because if people are already coming to you for this thing, great. That doesn't mean you can't transition into being known for something else. But I think defining that outright is important. So then you could start sharing content and engaging with content in that specific space. Not to say you can't engage on 10 different items at the same time, but I'd say breaking it up into 80% of the time that you're engaging with content or sharing content, it is on this specific topic. And I'll share a story that's not data specific, and not even LinkedIn specific. LinkedIn is my platform of choice, but this is back in the day. I was on Facebook just scrolling through, and every time I would scroll through, there was this lady, her name was Rachel, and she was posting accounting things. I'm not an accountant. I don't know tax rules, but every time she posted something, she had a good picture, and she was educating us on, oh, look, there's a new rule that came out on how you can, be smarter about taxes for your business. And every time I would scroll, you see some content. She would probably post it 10 times a day. It wasn't annoying, but I felt like, wow, she really loves accounting. So whenever anyone asks me, hey, do you know an accountant? Immediately, I'm like, okay, there's this lady, Rachel. She does not stop talking about accounting. Go to her. She knows what she's doing. And then I realized as I was watching her, I was posting content on data, and I was attracting all of those similar opportunities for the data space. So people contacted me to either write a book, co-author an article, do a training course, speak at a conference, MC a conference, go somewhere, do something, interview somebody. And I'm like, wow, this really works, because you become a magnet for the things that you talk about. So identifying what you want to be known for, putting out content consistently. And I can spend hours just talking about content in general, because I feel so passionate about it. And I'll also let you know that I just signed an agreement yesterday with LinkedIn Learning, where I'm building a course on building a brand in data on LinkedIn. So I'm going to officially announce that on LinkedIn probably on Monday, but super excited because I'm going to share all these insights in the LinkedIn course. Going to try to make it like a 30-40 minute course and get all the insights out in as little time as possible so people can actually consume it and take action.
I had to come off mute to go, yay! That's
Yay!
Really awesome. That really is
I'm so excited,
awesome.
honestly. I'm like,
And
I'm really excited.
I also wanted to interject. I have a guess. I'm a big fan of the name I'm about to say. I'm just curious if you are too. Simon Sinek.
Oh, yeah. Start with why. Of course. Absolutely. Yeah. Fan as well. I mean, like I said, I read. That's definitely one of the books I read. It was probably a year or 2 years ago that I read that one. And it's just, there's another one that comes to mind. I think it was Cal Newport. So good they can't ignore you. That's similar. So you start with why, and then you become so good and so present that people literally have no choice but to just bring you into their circle, and then you're recognized as the go-to person for this specific topic. I still remember it was 2018 where LinkedIn reached out to me, and they told me I was selected to be a LinkedIn top voice in data science and analytics. And I was like, what? Why? What's wrong with you people? I don't know data science. I barely know how to code. Like, I talked about data science all the time. I interviewed data scientists, and all I would talk about was data, but I would never consider myself a top data science person in terms of knowledge, because I was still, especially at that time, I was still learning the basics. I just kept talking about it. But it goes to show you that Yes, Tom.
Go on ahead, please. I didn't mean to interrupt you.
Oh, no, no worries. I was just saying it goes to show you that you don't have to be an expert to start sharing content. And that's where I'm going with this. People want to hear about everyone's journey. If you're beginning and if you're a student and you're just learning about this stuff, great. You can share that as well, because chances are there more people want to hear from you than they want to hear from the senior leader who did this a long time ago. And they're extremely successful now, but they don't even remember what it was like to be confused by the stuff that you're confused by right now. So sharing those similar struggles, people can sort of relate to you a bit more, and they want to hear your story as well.
I wanted to affirm you, Kate. I wanted to go into Dr. Ives' dad, as so many people call me, and affirm you to say, you, like Robert, like Greg Kikuyo, you may not be data scientists. Now, with the exception of Greg, I had to correct him and say, Greg, you are a data science student. And when engineers are students, they go on ahead and call themselves engineers. But you guys are such super glue and rocks in our community. And Greg is such an expert at being the top newsman of what's happening in data science and how it matters to the various industries. So I personally would prefer to be looser with that term. When we look at the books you've written, when we look at your visualization courses, that stuff's huge to what we do. I'm constantly preaching on your behalf. Hey guys, data scientists, data science students, the better you visualize, the better your machine learning processes are going to become. You're going to have more insights in how to develop the modeling. So all you, Robert, Greg, you're huge to what we do. I just wanted to affirm you on that.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Tom. And I see Kimberly's back.
Kimberly, you want to ask your question now? And if you want, you can type it in the chat too, and I'll ask it for you. And I'll even try to do it with your voice. Oh, there she is.
She's back.
I'm back. I'm back.
Hey.
Yeah. So my big question, which you sort of already answered, was how you chose Datacated, how you made that decision process. Because coming from a consulting background, there's a lot of ways you can actually go. And so, what made you decide to focus on the data visualization and to actually sit there and go, oh, I think I'm going to create a brand about this?
Yeah, that was thank you for the question. It actually makes me start thinking, why did I decide this? And I remember thinking through the options that I had, right? So with the consulting background, I also did some training even at the company that I used to work for, because they were ramping up their data viz, their dashboarding, and whenever they saw my stuff, they would say, oh, we want that. And instead of saying, let me build that, I did that at first few times, but then it ended up being just a bit too much for me to handle. So instead of saying, let me build this for you, which I could have quickly done, I started saying, let me teach you how to do this. And then I realized that I absolutely love seeing people's reactions when they get it right for the first time, when they build it and it works. And they're like, wow, this is so much easier than I ever thought. We were using Tableau at the time. That was our tool for data visualization. So I sort of got into training a little bit, and I ended up doing corporate training. So for companies at conferences, doing workshops. So one path was to go and focus on training. And then the other path was consulting, because the combination of teaching people, having the knowledge of data visualization and training and all of that good stuff, people approached me to consult them on how to do this, or how to move from spreadsheets into dashboards in a data viz tool. That was the other option. And then the one option, what I do now for a living is mainly media partnerships. So Datacated is a media company plus community, plus conferences and books and courses and other stuff. But mainly I'd say the focus is the media company, which probably brings in more of the revenue and sort of keeps our lights on. And I realized that is probably what I'm better at. And I also have so much more fun doing this. The training and consulting, well, I'll start with the training. The training was fun up until it became repetitive, where I would stand in front of a room. Okay, open up your laptops. Here's how we install Tableau. Here's how we connect to a spreadsheet. So then when that sort of became boring and repetitive for me, I created YouTube videos and I created courses where I could just share my knowledge once and then people can watch it and sort of move on from there. The consulting, for me, I did not like that because it was too much of trading your time for money. If I wanted to make money, I had to be somewhere. I had to go to wherever the person told me. I had to be on whenever they needed me to and really serve them. For media partnerships, all I had to do was talk to data people. I had to live stream, which is so much fun. I'm like smiling now because I love it. I had to talk about events coming up. I had to talk about cool webinars or sharing white papers with my audience. So much more fun, so much more in line with what I believe in, which is sharing with the community and bringing people together. And the conferences happened by mistake, but that gives you some insight into my decision process of why I ended up doing this. And it might change in 2 years. I have no clue where I'll be in 2 years at all. I might have a petting zoo with an elephant there. I don't know. That would be fun.
No, it totally makes sense. Like I think a lot of people who are in consulting do get bored very easily, and that's a big challenge. And
Yeah.
I think that media is definitely something that you can fragment out from in so many different ways. So I think it's perfect for you. I think you're going to be a media mogul. So it's fine.
Thank you. Thank you. And I have fun doing it. There's always something new, and I get to talk to so many different companies. Probably worked with at least 60 companies since 2020 in small ways and in big ways. And it's always so unique. Like we have something that will come out in a couple of weeks with the computer vision company where we're doing a competition with their pre-trained models. And it's something I never would have looked at, but yet here I am learning about face recognition models and all this other cool stuff. Stay tuned. It's going to be fun.
Right. Now, Robert had a question earlier that this is the perfect time for.
Okay.
What's next for Datacated? It's kind of two questions from Robert and one statement from Tom. Do we have physical conference that we can expect sometime soon? And then just a statement. This is kind of a fun statement. I've often teased Kate that she misspelled Datacated. It should be Datacated, but she's too humble to do that, so we'll never see it spelled that way. And but seriously, Kate, and then there's a third question for me related to Robert's questions, and I think I already know the answer. I wanted to copy you. I'm hoping. I've got a big group of hardcore data science friends on LinkedIn now, and thank God they're none of them are arrogant and look at the non-data scientists like you and Scott and George and Kimberly and all of you wonderful people. They look up to you too, which I wouldn't want anyone in that group that didn't look up to you guys. But I think all of us are hoping to do conferences, but we're going to need to learn from you. So I'm hoping you'll coach us, because you've obviously been the pioneer among our group for that. But okay, that was a lot of winded stuff. Back to Robert's questions. It was about Datacated and what's next for Datacated, and can we maybe hope for a physical conference?
Yes, so great questions, and thank you, Tom. First, I'll say I'm happy to coach you when you're ready for conferences. Not much I can coach for in-person events because I've not really done those, but I did see some people in person yesterday, and I miss people. I saw John Crone, Ben Taylor, Scott Taylor, Susan Walsh was here. It was amazing. And I had my 5th conference on March 1st, 3 weeks ago. And after every conference, I always say, I'm never doing this again. This is the last time I'm doing this. This is so stressful because the event is 100% live, which means I need to get between 16 to 25, depending on which conference I'm talking about, speakers to show up on time, give a 10-minute lightning talk, answer some questions. Their Wi-Fi has to be good. Their video quality has to be good. Their audio, and it's just me, right? And I have to make sure they all go one after another. So because I'm not great at delegating, I don't have that team that I can rely on. And it is the most stressful thing I've done, starting with the first conference, and it was just as stressful for the 5th time I did it. So I was sort of on the fence of, do I even do this again? Part of me is already planning the next conference, and I want to call it the summit. I just think this is fun, coming up with names. I'm like, ooh, we had an expo, let's do a summit. So that might be the final one. But at the same time, I'm thinking maybe I won't do any big events online this year and maybe start with some smaller events in person. I think in person has come back. So far, a lot of different conferences have taken place. It looks like they're going to continue to take place. And so part of my offering has actually now grown to include a package where I can attend the conference and live stream parts of it and sort of help them promote the events. So I started looking into that. I wanted to have a big in-person event this year in December in Florida, maybe, but there's just so many hesitations I have around leaving the kids, for example, right? Like for my conference here, they're next door. It's fine. It's so much easier to manage. They'd probably like a trip to Florida. Long story short, I don't know what's next, and I probably won't know until June, July timeframe when I finally make a decision. It's so much fun picking the speakers and engaging with the audience, coming up with trivia and giveaways and all the community partners. But I think in person is coming back. So I'm not sure if too many people would want to join an online event. Maybe I'll run a poll and see if people are still into it. I think for at least a year, people are going to start going back in person and not really joining as much.
I sympathize with you about the delegation thing. Luckily, when we started this family, people just showed up and helped. It spoiled me in a way, but the physical thing, I think the world's learned a lot from doing this virtual stuff. We don't have to fly. We don't have to get a hotel, go out to eat.
Yeah.
The worst fear I have, Kate, is during a talk, one of my dogs will bother me so much to be let out or in that it will interrupt my talk. And that's not too bad considering. But no, I sympathize if you never do a physical conference, but shoot, it would be fun. And
I know.
I want to dictate that you have to do it in at least Utah so I can get there easily. Ben and I talk a lot about getting together because see, I'm closest to Ben, physically speaking. And then
I think Avery's there too. Avery Smith.
Yeah, we got Avery, Ben, David Langer. It gets pretty far with Harpreet up in Winnipeg, but we're pretty close to George and Vin Vashishta.
Joe's there too.
Yeah, there you go.
There.
Yes, thank you.
Oh yeah, Joe's there. Yeah. Okay. And I love how everybody just knows each other. This is, I think, my favorite part of this data community. It's everyone just knows each other. It's pretty cool.
I totally agree. All right.
Eric Sims is there too.
Oh, thank you. I thought he was back east. That's good to know. Okay.
He might be in Atlanta now. I think he took that job in Atlanta, so he might have moved.
I bet he did. Okay. Any other questions for Kate? And I have plenty, and I know Robert has plenty if there's not others. Oh, and I'm going to let Magdi take back over. So Magdi, we're just continuing with questions. And Robert did have one, Kate, before I turn it over to Magdi, about what's your bigger goal with your ColorWise book?
Oh, yes. So first, let me tell, for those who don't know, I'm writing a book. I call this my first official book because it is with a publisher. My other books have been self-published. And they still took a lot of work and I'm still proud of them, but I think it's a little bit different to have that external validation of a publisher that I'm working with O'Reilly on this book to say that they believe in the concept and they want to work together. So yeah, what's happening with that is I've just submitted the first chapter and a half. They're reviewing. I've gotten some early feedback, which was positive, which I'm so happy. I didn't know what I expected from my editor. I think I expected a full rewrite because I don't think I'm a great writer, but she had very minimal feedback in terms of updates. So I've made those updates and now it's going into early production. My bigger goal for this is to educate all data professionals, if they're data visualizations, focus on data visualization or just broadly working with data, on the importance of color in data storytelling and just being intentional with how they use color for visualizing data. It sounds simple, but there's color theory, there's color psychology, and we get into the biology of how we actually view color and color blindness and accessibility. And yeah, it's just a lot of fun. I think the book is going to be fun. It's going to be colorful. So I'm excited to share that once. That should come out in the fall of this year.
Do you take into account psychology as well? And
Yes,
how colors
absolutely. Color
impact?
psychology, even and cultural connotations as
Exactly.
well. So
Yeah.
knowing your audience is very important. Absolutely.
Yeah. Nice. Nice. I have also a question. What is on your list to learn more? I mean, what is the next you would like to learn?
So I just read like 4 or 5 books on community building and developing a closer knit community. So we have something called the Datacated Circle, which Kimberly is a very active member. So I appreciate that, Kimberly. I want to do better. I want to do more for that community. I want to add more value. So I'm reading everything I can about how do we add value to each member? What keeps people coming back? What can I personally do to help connect other people? So I'm definitely learning more about this. You would think that, you know everything, but every time I read a different book, I always learn something new and get a new idea. I'm like, oh, we haven't tried this. Let's go ahead and try this. So there is something I'm contemplating trying out with that community, which is accountability groups. Basically placing members of that community into smaller groups that have the same goals. So if they want to get a promotion, if they want to get their first job, sort of picking and choosing members, putting them into little cohorts and basically saying, talk to each other, right? Build connections, but in a nice, fun, creative way where it's not forced. Still thinking through the logistics and how we actually pull that off. But that's one thing I picked up from a book I read.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but it's like also like engagement or assigning authority to small groups, right? Because community building after a while, when it's so many people, I'm also in the inner circle, but I'm not so active.
Yes,
just,
yeah, you don't join the
don't
spotlight sessions. We have spotlight sessions where we talk to each other like this.
Yeah, I didn't manage yet the time to do that, but I know that it is extreme difficult. I mean, you started as a founder, but after a while you just have to use techniques and tools.
Yes.
That okay, how can you, because you cannot handle everything. So, and there are also very active persons or really diligent persons who can pick up on certain things. So why not? So I find it's a good idea to organize it kind of under you. It's like a little bit like leading a company. So you can take corporate style of leading something also to a community, I would say.
Yes, you cannot do everything, and at some point you do have to just sit back and let people talk to each other. That's also part of it.
But do you notice the moment for yourself when you really have to say no and set the limit that no, I can't be involved to the extent they expect for me, so I have to let it go and bring others, for example?
Yes, so it goes back to my lack of ability to delegate, and I have tried. I've actually hired a few people, and then it was harder for me to come up with work for them to do than it was just to do it myself. It's like, okay, this person has 10 hours this week to work. What do I give them? Is this going to take them 10 hours? Like thinking through all that, it's something I definitely need to do more of in order to grow. So to answer your question, yes, I am much better at saying no, at getting involved. And I have seen good engagement within the community, even without, if I take a break for a week and don't go in, people still talk to each other. But I find that the more I engage in there, it also brings people in and sort of motivates them to engage as well. So I have a lot of ideas. I just have to execute on all of them. They're in my notebook. So.
Do you keep these ideas on a list, for example?
It's in here. It's all in here. My elephant book. I have a lot of lists. Nice. One of them is how do we get more engagement in Circle?
Yeah, sorry, Kimberly, you wanted to say something.
Oh no, I was just going to say that one of the things about delegating that I find is always so interesting is part of the reason it's difficult to delegate, I think, is when you don't know that you have enough control over something that you know that somebody else would be doing a better job. And I kind of find it a difficult balance to keep. And so I wonder, when you're looking at how you're going to grow things, at a certain point, you're going to have to delegate. So have you been thinking about how you're going to manage that that handover, that baton?
Yeah, so what I actually started a little bit in mid-Jan with my podcast. So I also have a podcast called Datacated on Air, where I take the live shows that I do on Tuesdays at 11, and then we convert that into an MP3 file, and it goes on to Anchor and Spotify and Apple Podcasts and all that good stuff. And I used to do it myself, but much like everything else I work on, I get excited. I say I'm going to do it, and then other things happen, and then it gets on my list, and then it gets on my whiteboard, and then it still doesn't get done. So what I ended up doing was, instead of hiring a full-time person, which I wanted this person to help me do this, she was not an expert in these things, and I could have taught her everything. But what I decided to also look at is, are there services out there that could do this for me, that can actually tell me how to do this? You know, someone who's been doing this for a while. So I found a company that basically takes the video, the MP4 file for me. They clean up the audio, they upload it into all of my my podcast places. They create imagery, they create show notes, they put those show notes on my website. And that felt great. I mean, I pay a pretty penny for that service, but all I have to do on Tuesday after the show is upload the video file, and sometimes the photo of the person I interviewed, so they don't create the wrong imagery. And then that's it. It takes them a week, but the work has been really good. And that's sort of my first taste of, wow, this delegation is great, without the need to have that stress of, okay, what do I tell them to do next week? Because we have a process. So I think starting slow has helped me. And with time, I have a list of all the things I would like to delegate. I read in a book somewhere that every week you should try to remove yourself from your company, if you own your own company, at least one step in a process. Have somebody else take over that one step. And each week you give them one more step and one more step. And by the time you know it, you can sit at the lake, read your book, and not worry about the business. I'm very far from doing that.
That's the goal, yeah.
Yeah, that's the goal. That's the goal. So.
And I think it helps when you realize that maybe you pay something for that service, but how much it saves for you, because your time is also precious. So how much, yes. and basically the next thing is with delegation, that you have to find a reliable person or company, and get the link that you can collaborate in a nicely way, so that you trust the outcome, basically. Yes. So either you train that person, the individual, what you would like to have, or find a person who can be on a common page with you, or what your expectations. So I know that it's hard, but sometimes you have to let it go. And what you said, that step by step, I think it's a good idea.
Yes. And I've read so many books on this as well, on this topic. Whenever I'm stuck on something, I tend to go to Amazon and get some books. So I read the 80-20 Manager. I read a book called If You Want Something Done Right, You Don't Have to Do It Yourself. Yet I still struggle. So I'm taking baby steps, because I think, especially now with technology, I have simplified my process enough where I sort of can do most of it myself. But you have to ask yourself the question of, do you want your time back? Do you know, it's all about finding the right person who will do it. And with this podcast stuff, I feel like I found the right company, because it's not only one person. They have a whole company, a team of people who will do this if somebody can't. And the best part about delegation is they actually get it done. If I tell myself to do it, I'm not always going to do it. So sometimes I'll just do something else. So that's been one of the highlights. They actually, every week, they get it done without fail.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So you were waiting patiently. So you are next with your question.
Yeah. Again,
hi.
My first question would be, how do you wake up at 5 in the morning? Like, is there any tip?
Hold on, let me show you. Let me set an alarm. Hold on, I'm gonna set let me see. Okay, this is how it goes. That's my alarm. 5 o'clock in the morning, it rings, and I pick up my phone to turn it off so my husband doesn't, wake up, because if it rings too much, so I have to quickly turn that off. And then, as I said at the beginning, I count down from 5 to 1. So I say 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, and then I sit up. Because if you lay on your pillow for 30 more seconds, you will have every excuse not to get up, and every like, oh, I worked so hard yesterday. Oh, I went to the gym. Oh my God, I ran a marathon yesterday. Maybe I should sleep in. I don't have anything on my calendar until, 10. Why do I need to wake up at 5? But I love this alone time I have from 5 a.m. to 7 a.m. I love my office. I now can open the window and listen to the birds and see the sunrise and have my coffee. It's just amazing. So for me, I love it. And because I go to bed early, it's sort of, I'm not that tired when I wake up.
And you never snooze?
Almost never. No.
Wow.
I think,
Now, do you have
Yeah.
a sleep-in day though? I'm just curious.
no, I don't want to. I wake up without the alarm mostly as well, even on vacation. Like we were in Florida last year. I actually had to do a live show. I'm just remembering now. I had to do a live show with Randy Bean about his new book in Florida. So that was fun. But anyways, I woke up at 5 a.m. and yeah, the kids also wake up around 6-ish most days. So it sort of gave me no choice but to be up before them. But you get to see the sunrise, which is one of the things I love. And it's part of why I wake up at 5. Can't miss it.
That's awesome.
It's opposite for me. I sleep late, like around 3 a.m. in the morning, and get up before 8:50 because 9 a.m. we have class. So that's my schedule. So that's the kind of person I am. So I just curious. And second was like, how to. I have asked this question to plenty of people, and I am asking you to, that how to break into data science, like for a beginner, and using courses, because normally I have like a lot of my peers come to me and they say, we did this course, we did this project, and then we left for 6 months and then we forgot.
Yeah.
Kind of. And then again we start and then we just forgot because we have exams in between and we have these stuff and we just forgot. It's not, we have courses, a lot of courses, but how to maintain this consistency, like for a larger scale?
Yeah, I think so. Are you talking about while you're still in school, or are you talking more about boot camp courses, online courses? Which one are you specifically?
Mostly my, like I have also used my peers and my circle uses like Udemy, then Udemy a lot because
Okay.
it's cheap.
Yeah. So what do you do?
But-
Let's say you took a course. Let's say it was 2.5 hours long. What do you do after you've taken the course?
Complete the course, take the certificate, and then that's it. Normally my peers have this mindset that if getting a certificate is everything, we can show it in our CV and resume, and then they forgot, and then they ask you, they forgot for 1 month or 2 months, and they come to me again and like, bro, I did it, but I forgot now what to do now.
And then, so the main goal here is to get hired as a data scientist, right? Or are you just taking these exams and collecting certificates? What's the goal here?
Normally there is this kind of among my, I don't know about others, but my friend circle feels that if you have certificate and stuff, we can get a job, or we can just build a CV or a resume. It will be helpful.
And then, so after you get the certificate, do you apply to jobs? Do you talk to people, or what's the next step for you that you usually take?
Like personally, me, I go and speak to everybody. Like I have this habit of what to do next. But for them, they just don't, because
so they're not being proactive.
Yeah, they are not proactive. Actually, I'm very, very sorry, first of all, for my surroundings, because I'm in a hostel and today there is cricket league which has started, IPL. So today is the opening day. So my friends, my peers are literally making noise all over the corridor.
They can join us. Have them join the conversation.
Yeah, sure. Actually, they are. I'll share the YouTube link because as of now, I don't know. Yeah, can you just suggest me like how to tell them?
Yeah, I think encouraging them to take immediate action after they've learned something, not necessarily taking a full course and getting the certificate. I think taking action after they learn a concept, and that action could be depending on how comfortable they are with putting content out onto social media. It could be a post on LinkedIn that tells the audience, tells people what they've learned, or it could even be a Google Doc where they just jot some notes and talk about what they've learned. But then going a step further and actually doing something with it. So instead of talking about the theory and the methodology that you just learned, get some data and do something, right? So if you're learning Python and you've just learned how to clean a data set, find a new data set and clean it. Actually take that step, take that action. It's kind of like fitness, right? So we can read about doing push-ups. We could take courses and watch people do push-ups 6 hours a day and get a certificate of this person really knows how to do push-ups. But until you actually get on the floor, start sweating, get exhausted doing it, you're not actually doing push-ups, you're learning about it. So I think whatever you can do to actually code something, use an algorithm for even something silly, will give you that experience, and it will definitely solidify everything you just learned in your head, where it's not like, oh, I got the certificate, but I forgot what I did. If you took the time to download a data set, Titanic, for example, or cats versus dogs, I don't know, Pokemon, whatever you're into, and you've gone through the process of taking data, how do you put this data into this, into this library, and then what outcome did you get, and writing all of that down into the Google Doc or in social media, wherever you're more comfortable. Good luck forgetting that experience. Okay, you'll remember that, and you'll remember the steps you've taken, and it'll make you a better candidate for a job as well, because then you can say, oh, I have experience using this classification model, here's what I did, and you can actually talk about that experience. So that's my suggestion, is just taking immediate action. I remember back in the day, I thought I wanted to create an app. It was going to be called Sunrise. It was Sometime. I didn't actually do it, but it was about sunrises and sunsets. I wanted to get an alarm, like an app that goes off that says, okay, you have 10 minutes to catch the sunrise or sunset, and it'll sort of map the geography of where you are. But my point here is, when I had this idea, I started Googling how to create an app, what language to use, and I learned all this stuff, and it helped me retain a lot of that information. I didn't do it because I got distracted by the next shiny object, which I tend to do, and started focusing on that. It's still on my list in my notebook, by the way, to create this app. But because I had an actual idea, a concept I wanted to build, and I was excited about it, I took the necessary steps. I took action. I started installing different things where I could build this app. I started learning the costs associated with it, and if I were to move forward. So that's my advice, is take immediate action, whatever that might be, even sharing with you, right? If people are taking those courses and want to tell you what they learned, or maybe bring it here, tell Tom what they learned.
So,
And
such as
how to
doctor,
convince, like,
go on
Yeah.
ahead, Sai. Go on ahead.
oh yeah, actually, most of my friends, Katie, they have problem in speaking in English, and they fear a lot if there are outsiders and speaking. Like, I can speak, but they fear like it's not good to, how will we speak and with you guys and stuff, because I have plenty of times I have gave them the link, Slack link, there some of them are there, but at the end they feel like what will they think if we speak, kind of. So how to convince them to bringing in here?
Do they have aspirations to be more comfortable in speaking English? Do they want to? That's my first question.
They want to, but the kind of surroundings we have, like, they certainly, then
What
they
is-
want to.
What is the fear stopping them from trying? Because the only way you'll learn, again, language included. My English is not my first language, by the way. I grew up in Tajikistan and spoke Russian. So first time I was in America, I was in 4th grade, and that was my first time ever in school, period. So I can relate to being nervous and speaking, and you remind your friends that no one cares about them. Most people are worried about themselves and what are people thinking of them instead of sitting. I know some people have the time and they sit around judging others, but I think those people you shouldn't care about anyways. So getting them to speak as in a safe environment where they will not be judged is good experience, because that's the only way they'll actually learn to do it, right? It's getting out of that comfort zone, but starting small. Don't have them present to an audience of 1,000 strangers. I think starting small with 2 or 3 people and talking to each other and getting immediate feedback on, okay, you know, I would have said this better, or this, you know, this makes more sense if you say it this way. And as long as they're comfortable with that feedback, getting together and providing feedback to each other is going to go a long way.
Yeah, hopefully. And one more question.
Oh, go ahead, sorry.
Personal question for me: is it bad to ask too many questions, like, or do it?
I say do it. I ask questions all the time and always take chances. I remember, you know, Tom, it's interesting. You said that I was kind to you when you approached me. People were so kind to me when I approached them. My first time in data science, I emailed the likes of DJ Patil and Eric Weber. And for me, they were rock stars. They were like, I'm like, they've responded. Oh my God, they responded to my message. This is crazy. And it just, people are so nice in this field, and they do give you the time. So I think ask as many questions as you want, as long as you take their advice and actually take action. So asking the same question every time and not doing anything could be frustrating, because I've had family members say, oh, I'm stuck here and I don't know what to do. And then, you know, I'll tell them exactly what to do, and then they still won't do it. It's like, okay, well, you're in the same place now. So we're talking about the same thing again.
I wanted to affirm that this is just such simple wisdom. You want to grow, take action. And from the thought experiment king of the world, Tom Ives, I mean, literally, guys, I've been thinking of how to solve the same problem for almost 30 years. But eventually, and it's gotten me very far because it's a very big problem. But eventually, I'm going to have to take action. You know why? Because all those thoughts will then be challenged. Really, theory's no good until you experiment with it to see how it's going. And new skills aren't really cemented into your soul and your mind until you start working with them repetitively. I met this amazing prodigy pianist when I lived in Orlando, Florida. Just an amazing guy. But you know what? He practiced hours every day still, even though he was that good. So
Wow.
I hope everyone will listen carefully to what Kate said, take action. And we see Kate taking action a lot.
And
Maggie,
it's still
take back
scary. Just FYI, it's still very scary. So
Yeah,
I
but
affirm that.
it's just amazing. I really have to say that it's amazing what you do for the community to grow. And yeah, it's just inspiring. You really have to know about that. That you really are a role model for a lot of people, what you are doing, and yeah, amaze a lot of people. I'm just curious, what was your biggest learning effect so far, if there was any?
Just getting started. I think everything we've been talking about is, you know, taking that first step and just taking action, which is interesting because a lot of times, you know, if we talk about the things that scare us, I remember my first conference that I ran in October of 2020, I was almost frozen with fear. Okay, it might not come across that way because
Not at all. It was
you
great.
see me say, hi, welcome to the conference. But guess what? I almost closed my laptop seconds before thinking, screw this, I'm not doing it. Like this is too much, because we had 7,100 people registered, and it blew my mind. I thought we'll get 100 people. Okay. So when that first conference blew up, I'm like, I'm going to talk to thousands of people now. I'm not a public speaker. I was the person in school who was afraid to speak so much, but knowing I would have to go, I would raise my hand to go first to get it over with. Otherwise I would have like a heart attack and I would just not even hear what other people are saying. I would freak out. So I always volunteered myself to go first for absolutely everything. It's also easier because you don't have to follow somebody really good and then you're really terrible right after them. But what I reminded myself standing there, because I stood for the first conference, I got a standing desk and everything, was that very few people would even attempt to do it. And few people would even try. So I'm like, okay, so if I'm doing it, I should just do it, because if very few people are going to try anyways, I should just try and see what happens, and then it'll be a good learning lesson for the next one, if there ever is a next one. And the other way I overcome fear is thinking about the fact that 80 years from now, this literally will not matter. Like the friends who are worried about their English skills or maybe an accent or something, who's going to care about this 80 years from now? Like think of one person, probably that only them, because they're the ones who care about themselves most. So coupled with the fact that, you know, life is going to end, no one cares anyways, that always motivates me to just try new things. And again, that reminder of that few people would even attempt to do things that scare them. So it makes life easier and more fun.
And what's amazing, Kate, is you're absolutely right. People will leave, like if your first Datacated conference was a huge success, but people didn't go off thinking about Datacated a lot right away. They thought of their own lives. But now, because you did Datacated, it's changed the community, Kate. So good job, kudos, big kudos. And so if you hadn't faced that fear and overcome it, the world wouldn't have Datacated, even though it's still
that's true.
misspelled.
And that's the same for everything, right? That's the same for everyone who's ever done anything. It's
Yeah,
but if you do, it is comforting, because if you do fail, people are going to forget it and you can go try again. I was encouraging someone the other day. I sent this list of this guy's failures. It's a huge, it included depression, mental breakdowns, a sweetheart dying, all that.
I remember
it was
this
Abraham Lincoln.
Your talk of
Lincoln.
Samir.
Yeah.
Yes,
My dad.
and that is another great reminder of the number of times other people have failed. There was actually a book I just read, The Long Game. So wait, it's Kim. Oh, Kim said she had to go. Kim read this book as well. It was part of our monthly book club. So anyways, there's a book from Doris, I forget her last name. It's called The Long Game, and it's basically about thinking through your life strategy and sort of what do you want to accomplish, and thinking longer term instead of focusing on just this week or just this month, and being kind to yourself in that process. But what was interesting in that book, she lists 5 goals that she had for herself. One was writing a major book or speaking on a major stage, and she had very specific 5 goals. And what she shared at the end was only one of those goals actually happened. So she completely failed on those 4. She tried her hardest, and she goes into exactly the steps she took and why it didn't work out. But it was so inspirational because, like, we can try hard things. We don't have to succeed. We definitely will get closer than the people who've never tried, and you will learn something in that process and maybe be inspired to even go in another direction that we didn't even consider. But yeah, setting those big goals and telling people about it, that motivated me to put my big goals out for 2022. One of which was to write a book with O'Reilly. And I didn't say O'Reilly, I said a publisher. And right away, I had a few people contact me and say, hey, I'm a publisher. We can publish your book. And I'm like, wow, this is amazing, because it goes back to the whole having a brand and being a magnet for opportunities and putting yourself out there, which I know scares people. It used to scare me. I've gotten over it. Now I use it more of oh, wow, what was I thinking 6 years ago when I put out this content? A lot of it was terrible, but it's fun to look back and sort of see your younger self talking.
Yeah, but you definitely built a big brand.
By
accident.
But maybe it's by accident, but it worked out that this is really a strong brand. That is one thing. The other thing with trying and failing, I always say that, you know, it is much better to try than maybe in 1 year or later say that I regret that I didn't try.
Oh yeah.
Because at least you tried and you know that you did your best, and obviously you go for the success. But sometimes, yeah, maybe it is not the time it should be.
It doesn't always work out.
But there is no audience for that, or there is no no one who can perceive as you are that idea. It can be that 5 years later it would be a better timing, but you are in a different life cycle, for example. So it's yeah, you shouldn't be so harsh on yourself, because if you can say that I had an idea, I initiated something, I did my best and put all my efforts, and I failed. It can happen.
Yeah.
I learned. The question is, did you learn something from it? Can you move and can you move forward?
Oh, absolutely. And
to the
I
next
definitely,
to the next step, next idea, or whatever.
yeah, I definitely learned from all of the things I've tried and failed at, and all the things I've tried and maybe didn't move forward with, like the app idea, for example. That was something I had an idea, I tried it. I've not put it away completely, but I've put it on hold while I learned a lot of new things from that experience. And I see Tom first went like this, and now he has his hands. So I'm gonna.
Oh, I didn't want to rush this because I was loving Magdi's questions. I hadn't thought of them. Oh, that's a great question. But Kate, I do have a burning question. So Raif and I started a book on machine learning processes, and it's going very deep. And we realized we had a new plan, and we just broke ties with our publisher because we realized we needed to. But
Okay.
I find it fascinating that you started by self-publishing. And I'm curious, is ColorWise both self-published and then a publisher's picking it up also, or are you only doing it with O'Reilly?
Great question. So with ColorWise, this is an idea I've had to write this book for a few years now, especially when I was deep in the data viz and training people. I always wanted to write this book. What happened was I posted about writing it online, and I sort of signaled the fact that I was looking to do this with a publisher, simply for the fact that I wanted the experience. So it's kind of like, oh, I didn't go on this roller coaster yet in life, right? Let's try this. It could be terrible and it could be amazing. But I wanted that experience. It was definitely not driven by any financial prospects. I'm not trying to make money off of this. If you're trying to do that, I think you're better off probably self-publishing, especially if you have an audience. But what happened was I spoke to a couple of different publishers, about 5 of them. And I even did a poll on LinkedIn of what is the best publisher to work with. O'Reilly won. I think they were rated like, they got 56% or 53% of the votes. So I'm like, okay, this is cool. And interestingly, I posted the idea of what I want to write about. And the publisher reached out to me and they said, hey, Kate, we want to write a book with you, but not this book, because this book is too specific. People won't care. So I'm like, okay, no, I want to write this book. So you guys, maybe we'll talk later, right? Maybe we can write that other book you're talking about another time. Then I thought about writing this book myself and publishing it as an NFT, a non-fungible token. And I was telling my husband that I'm thinking about this, and he's like, okay, that's an interesting idea. And at that time, I had presented at an O'Reilly conference, and I was preaching about the use of color, decluttering, choosing the right chart. And it was one of these really interactive sessions where people were just so engaged. The comments were literally flying in. You couldn't keep up. So after that session, O'Reilly,
and I'm keeping her updated. He has no injuries.
No injuries, that's good. O'Reilly reached out and they said, wow, this session was so engaging. We do want to write this book with you. And at that time I had already been writing it in the, sort of in a Google Doc, and I was still excited about it, but then I was excited about writing it as an NFT. So my husband's like, well, you can always write about anything else. You can write a book about other things as an NFT. Like if they really want this book, do this. So here I am. And I'm really excited with the process so far. The editor's been good. I think it is easier to work with a publisher than to work by yourself. They have deadlines you have to meet. I'm big on deadlines.
That's so good to hear. And that helps me too. I've been honored to become friends with Gilbert Hijkilaboom. I think I'm saying it right. And
close enough to know who you're talking about.
Good. And we've even had some private sessions where he wanted to get my feedback on his new material. Love the guy's thinking style, but it was really a good data point to hear how successful he had been with self-publishing. And I'm equally glad to hear it from you. That's good to hear. But I think having an O'Reilly authorship under your belt's a pretty good milestone for a career.
It's awesome. A cool thing, right? It's kind of like, oh wow, look at that. That's cool. That's all it is. It's that whole experience. I'm still shocked. Like they want to work with me. Oh my God, so exciting.
Now, family, I want us to remain popular with Kate's kids and her husband.
I'm
So
surprised they haven't knocked yet. Yeah.
I'd like to wrap it up in consideration that we'll have Kate back as soon as possible, but any short closing questions before we let her go, please. And by the way, it's okay if you're connected with Kate on LinkedIn, just send her a question. I don't remember a time where Kate didn't reply to me. Or you can ask me and I'll get it to her. But Kate, thank you. Thanks for popping in. We will beg you to come back again. And
of course, this was fun. Thank you.
And just once like wrapping a conclusion, but because I like your wisdom, but can we just say at the end that just don't be afraid to dream and follow your dreams and gut feelings and put out your ideas. It can be a LinkedIn, because then somebody will connect and drag you in and make your dream kind of true, or idea, dream, whatever you call it.
Absolutely.
Because that is what I filtered out, that maybe not intentionally you are doing certain things. It just, yeah, you have a lot of ideas and you just put it out like the publishing thing.
Yeah.
And it just comes to you.
It does. It almost
and
feels
people will
magic.
find you.
And I'll tell you a quick example of everyday life, right? So if you picture a person who's driving a car and their car breaks down, okay? So they come out of the car and they start pushing it. Now there are people passing by and they see this poor person pushing a car and they say, let me help you. And they start pushing. And other people see it and they start pushing as well. Before you know it, the person's in the car and they're driving and they're great. Now the person's car broke down and they just sat there. Hello, can anybody help me? Hello, anybody at all? Chances are people will keep passing by on their phones, doing whatever they need to do because they don't see you trying. So that's the equivalent of posting something on social media. I remember one of my most viral posts ever was I was trying to consolidate Excel files, like 100 of them into one to analyze data. And I think I got like 1 million views on that thing. It was crazy by the number of people who were helping. And because they saw other people helping, they joined in and started helping. It's just this so powerful. So when people see you struggling, they see you trying, they see you wanting to succeed, it is a lot higher chance that they're going to jump in and help you.
That's super cool. Kate, I want to explain something. You're still getting to know our family here. So Magdie's the mom. I just want to give her credit for that. We're not married, we're close friends. But she's been such a mom to the people in the group. And one of her sons is from India there, Nishant Jha. He came from India. He moved she was instrumental in getting him into Germany. And now he works very close to Geith, my co-author, in Berlin. So,
nice.
And
Wow.
Nishant's slowly becoming German there.
Okay, cool. Look at that. I love it.
Yeah,
it was great getting to know people.
We transform him to German. Yeah.
All right, guys, in consideration to all of you, but more so to Kate, we're going to end the call. Val, so great to have you with us. We're going to have a Val corner next time for sure. And Kate, thanks again. We'll see everyone online. Thank you.
Okay, I'll see you online. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Bye-bye, everyone.
Thank you very much. It was
Bye.
very helpful.
Bye.